It's so easy in dreams to accept, because I'm in the dream and I'm the dreamer, that everything's me. But in the real world, it's the same thing. So Charlie in the real world is also a reflection of your psyche, but we don't see that. Like, we only say, oh, everyone in my dream is me. But if we start to work with dreams in this way and start to use it as an integrative tool, we start to see the world and outside circumstances not as this random events or these outer people that are coming in to make our lives difficult. We start to see they're an aspect of our mind. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soul Sessions with Creative Mind. I'm Deborah Burnt Maldonado. I'm here with Dr. Rob Maldonado.
Great to be here.
And we are continuing our series on dreams because it's winter. It's winter here. And
it's time to dream.
You feel a little dreamy. And so today we're talking about the types of dreams. Not all dreams are created equal. We're really excited for that. But before we begin, I do want to remind you, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You don't want to miss this dream series if you're interested in dreams and our other episodes every time we go live every week.
Shout out to all our graduates. We have a graduate community that just keeps growing, and I love to go in there and interact with them. And thank you for being a part of that. And
you're talking about the graduates of the Jungian Life Coach Training.
That's right.
And we teach dreams in the Jungian Life Coach Training. It's a 12-month program. And if you're interested, there are some links in the show notes below. So let's talk about the types of dreams. So are there good dreams and bad dreams? Is that what you're saying, Rob?
Not at all. This is not a comprehensive list, but it's a list of some of the most important categories of dreams, because like you said, not all dreams are created equally. It would be like saying all thoughts are equal. We know there's philosophy, there's science, there's biology, there's history, there's politics, on and on, right? All these different categories of thought that give you an understanding of what are these thoughts meant to give us.
In context. And another great example of the types of dreams is if you think about movies, there's horror movies, there's romantic comedies, there's documentaries, and your dramas, and you kind of like understand it from that perspective as you recognize the genre of the movie. So you, in the dramas, you don't expect, a zombie to come in. And then in the horror movies, you don't expect everything to work out at the end, like in romantic comedies. So the dream is kind of like a type, and when you understand the different types, you're understanding what the context is and what's happening.
Yeah, it's giving you an entry point into reading and interpreting the dream instead of just going in there without knowing.
And just to review too, that it's Jungian dream interpretation, not Freudian. So we look at the dream in more of a Jungian lens. So the first one is probably the most, like, most people think that's what dreams are.
Yeah, it's the prospective dreams or prospective dreaming. These dreams are seen as having a predictive quality. Some people may call them precognitive dreams or prophetic dreams, like the old kind of biblical stuff. They can also be prospective, not in a literal sense, but more in a psychological sense, that they're giving us a heads up as to what's coming up in our internal work and our growth as individuals.
So, and then sometimes when you don't know if it's prospective or precognitive until maybe after the fact, and you're like, ooh, I had a dream about that, and now look, it's coming up. And sometimes it's like the psyche's way of like trying to reach us, is that you'll have, like I would have a dream, and then somewhere that day, a symbol that showed up in the dream would show up in my outer life. And it was what Jung called synchronicity. And so it's kind of like placing things right there. And they're like tiny little things that are just a wink from your unconscious saying, there's these worlds are pretty much the same. We're just kind of, lifting the veil between the two. So these prospective dreams are really interesting to kind of see that. For me, it's always been this part of myself, my deeper self, that cares so much about me, that's helping me on my journey.
Yeah, so Jung kind of describes it this way, or throughout his writings, in his many parts where he's talking about dreams, the image that I got anyway was this idea of the headlights of a car. So you're driving at night, and the headlights are on. The headlights are illuminating the road up ahead. In other words, you're not there yet, right? You're driving over here, but you're observing and you're seeing what's coming up ahead, because the headlights are illuminating the terrain that's a mile or 2 miles ahead of you.
But isn't that the way our psyche works anyway? Like the ego tries to predict what's ahead based on past information. But this is not the ego. This is more a deeper, wiser part of us, showing us symbolically where our journey is going. So we have it like built in us already to anticipate the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the unconscious has a lot more information than our conscious mind does. And so in dreams, often it will reveal to us something that we know intuitively, perhaps, but we haven't figured it out logically or consciously. But that in the dream, it's revealed to us like in a flash, right? It's all the information is put together and revealed through a dream that is prophetic, prospective. It's precognitive, meaning it's giving us information that we're not conscious of yet, but it's been part of our awareness, our psyche. So it's a very powerful thing. Now, what happens when we start to pay attention to our psyche through inner work, right? Through what Jung called individuation or shadow work, the unconscious responds. It starts to give us more of these prospective dreams, meaning you're kind of saying, I'm ready to do internal work. And therefore, the unconscious starts to reveal to you what is coming up in your internal work that you need to pay attention to. So it starts to give you much more of these prospective dreams. And some of them, they're kind of funny because they're not necessarily kind of big revelations about your life, but they're giving you a hint that the unconscious is activated now. So I remember when I started to do my shadow work and inner work, I would be at work, and I was working in a hospital at that time. And one night I had this incredibly vivid dream that I was pushing this little cart with a glass jar on it full of liquid, and that I stopped for some reason. I stopped all of a sudden, and the bottle fell to the ground and broke and shattered into many pieces. That was the dream. The following day, I was doing that at work, and guess what happened? Precisely the same thing, but now in living color. But it was the same image, and I didn't remember the dream until it was happening. Yeah. Like the bottle was falling from the table and going to hit the ground. And in a flash, I remembered, I dreamt about this. But, it's just that kind of revelation that what it's instructing you on, of course, is that time is not necessarily what you think of it in a rational way. That the mind is able to, like the headlights of the car, it's able to illuminate what's coming up, not only in your inner work, but in your outer experience of life.
I've had that too, where I've had a dream where someone said something like in the dream. Sometimes you have those dreams where someone's like saying the same phrase and it sticks out to you as weird. And then the next day I'd be like watching a movie and that same phrase would happen. I'm like, but you want to see it's a meaningful coincidence. So what does that symbolize? So we want to go deeper into it, not just be like, oh, wow, that was cool. But kind of look at a little deeper, like the symbolism of a jar and the water and breaking and all that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go to the next one, compensatory dreams.
Yeah, so Jung writes a lot about this because in part, our mind it was designed to compensate for how we feel. In other words, it's a balancing act. And the unconscious, which is where dreams come from, Jung's thought that its main function is to compensate for our conscious attitude. So that if we're too logical, too reasonable, or off the mark in performing our duties or doing our life, that the unconscious would give us a dream to compensate, to balance out our conscious attitude.
So, for example, if you're being very rigid and a kind of perfectionist, the dream would be more chaotic and emotional. If you're suppressing anger, there would be like anger, someone with anger in the dream, and it's like showing you there's just this emotion here you're not conscious of. So that's a great example.
Yeah, it's an important function of dreams, and many of our dreams, especially like what we call typical dreams, right? In other words, these are not really important or big dreams, but they're doing this important work.
They feel kind of ordinary, like, oh, that's weird, just a everyday kind of people and like almost like a reflection of your day or a familiar place.
Yes, but they perform an important function because why do you feel so much better when you have a good night's sleep and you have dreams, healthy dreams? Because this process is going on continuously and it's balancing you out so that you feel like a well-adjusted individual. I
know we all think that we have to be consciously, like bring everything to consciousness for it to balance itself out. But a lot of times the psyche has an organizing principle unconsciously that's always trying to work and balance you automatically. Integrative dreams. What are those?
Yeah, so now we're getting into kind of deeper work, right? As people start to pay attention to their psyche and to the inner work, the psyche begins to respond in deeper ways, in more important ways.
Like having you spoke the basic language. Now let's get a little more technical.
Yes, these dreams are contributing to your psychological, emotional, spiritual growth. In other words, they're not talking about your boss and the anger you have towards your boss or your ex
person.
Yeah, they're talking about really aspects of your psyche that you need to be very aware of. Not only to function in a better way in your life, but to transform the inner structure of the psyche.
And specifically the individuation process that is constantly we're being all called upon to take, which is to become our true self, to get out of the patterns. So the integrative dream, for example, the first stage of the individuation process of many stages is the shadow work, is only the first stage. And many people stop there. You can't stop there. But the first stage is that shadow work. So you will see, just like in life, your shadow is projected onto other people. It happens the same way in dreams. You have this person following you that's a sibling or a friend that's always annoying you. And in the dream, they're kind of trying to interfere with where you're going or who driving the car and chaotically, and you're in the passenger seat. And it's it's saying this part of your psyche that you're projecting on others, you need to kind of bring to consciousness. That's what I love about Jungian dream interpretation, is that you're not taking it literally. You're actually looking at how is this all showing up in a symbolic way? And we're going to talk about symbols in another podcast, but looking at the symbolism and metaphors that the unconscious is trying to show us of what's the next stage, like what's keeping you stuck and why is this shadow element in the way?
Yeah, so all the characters in our dreams are aspects of ourselves.
Which we've probably heard before, right?
Yeah, but in particular in Jungian work, this is the approach, that we're not seeing these characters as talking about them, right? So in other words, if I dream of my friend Charlie, it's not about Charlie, it's about me. Charlie simply represents some aspect of my own psyche that I haven't integrated yet. Integrative dreams are giving me an opportunity to have that realization, because what happens in Jungian dream work is you start to interact with the unconscious mind through the dream, so that if the dream reveals something to you, now you can consciously approach it. So that if there's a dream about this need to integrate an aspect of, let's say, Charlie's personality, because
Charlie's kind of a snake oil salesman, and
whatever he represents, whatever he represents for me as Charlie, and often the hints will be in his personality. What kind of persona does he play out in life? Often that represents something about your own mind that you need to be aware of and you need to integrate. And integration simply means that you need to come to like a an agreement as to what this means for you.
And why am I
yourself.
pushing it away? And why am I resisting? Why, what is so bad about being like Charlie? And how have I been conditioned to avoid being like Charlie? One thing too, though, I think is that it's so easy in dreams to accept, because I'm in the dream and I'm the dreamer, that everything's me. But in the real world, it's the same thing. So Charlie in the real world is also a reflection of your psyche, but we don't see that. Like we only, everyone in my dream is me. But if we start to work with dreams in this way and start to use it as an integrative tool, we start to see the world and the outside circumstances not as this random events or these outer people that are coming in to make our lives difficult. We start to see they're an aspect of our mind. And how do we integrate them? And so the dream work gives us almost like an easy way to start to see it. But then the harder part is actually accepting that the person that you resist the most in the outer world is actually a part of you in some way. There's a part of you in them.
Yeah, there was this incredible dream presented by one of our students. She was working in corporate America, let's say, in a corporate job, very unhappy in that regards, because she had another aspect of herself that needed to be integrated. Mm-hmm. So she has a dream where she dreams of a friend from college who is an artist or an artistic type, right? A creative type of person. And in the dream, she is driving a convertible. The dreamer is driving a convertible. And then her friend is coming in the opposite direction, also driving a convertible. And as the cars come close together, the friend's car flips over. And because it's an open top, her friend's head hits the dreamer's head. In other words,
that's interesting.
They merge, they bump together, and then the scene changes, of course, and the cars pass.
That's such an obvious integration dream, right?
An obvious integration dream.
But an ordinary person may look at it and say, "Oh, that's kind of weird, Becky. I had a dream about you. It was very strange," and dismiss it. We quickly dismiss it, but It means that she needs to integrate the artistic part of herself.
It was the unconscious telling her, the solution to your dilemma is the integration of the creative aspect of yourself.
And you know what I love about that too, is that no matter, like, especially in our coaching method, you can only do so much logical work with a client and write down everything you like and rationalize. But there's something about the client having an experience of a dream like that's something deeper in her is saying, hey, this is what you should do. It's like that this wiser self is coming through, and it makes a powerful shift in people's lives. And to have that skill to be able to help interpret those dreams for your clients is so powerful. And for me, like, I've learned so much from my dreams, just from building our business and where I'm stuck personally. And then I get the information and then I integrate, and then everything changes in the external. So it's just an incredible, most overlooked tool for personal development, I think. And everyone should do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, next one, reoccurring dreams. I used to do a lot of this with hypnosis. We'd get people with these dreams that repeat. Kids would come to me and, how do I undo it? And I didn't know Jungian dream interpretation at the time, so I wish I would have known that, but
it's a common phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
Recurring dreams, a dream that repeats, and sometimes it'll go on for years. People have told me, I've had this recurring dream for 20, 30 years for some reason, and I still don't know what it means, and I don't know what to do with it. So what are these dreams talking about? Obviously, the repetitive nature of it, it's saying, you need to get this, and I'm going to continue to repeat it until you get it.
It's like there's someone who's knocking at your door and they just keep knocking and knocking until you answer it. And that's really what it is. I've had people have recurring dreams. The common one is you're looking for something and you can't find it. Like I feel like I'm always searching for something and I'm going through doors, or the dream of running away from, either you're looking for something, or you're running away from something, like something's always chasing you. That is a very common dream.
Yeah. All kinds of incredible scenes. As a kid, I used to have this dream that I was in this open space. You know how in movies sometimes they put this kind of misty plane that goes off into infinity in all directions. It was kind of that scene. And then off in the distance, I would see like like a car coming or something moving, right? So, like a vehicle coming very quickly towards me. And then I would look the opposite direction and there would be another one coming in the opposite direction. And of course they were going to meet at the same point and crash into each other. And it was so intense.
Was I the car and then we finally crashed?
These two objects were moving so quickly and gaining speed as they approached each other that the intensity of the dream would just come and rise to a pitch until they were about to crash and I would wake up.
And what was that be?
I'm not going to tell you,
Okay.
but no.
I've had dreams of falling, like and you fall, like again, and you're falling, but you never hit the ground. And also when I was a kid, I used to have dreams, recurring dreams of me flying all the time. But that's a different kind of dream, isn't it? Like where you're flying in the dream as a kid. I mean, I just know a lot of people that say they have those dreams as kids, and then when you're older, you don't tend to have them.
Well, the contents of the dreams can be very different. Yeah, they can be intense or playful or creative, right? But the recurring nature of it, again, is what we're interested in, meaning that it's an unresolved issue, that it keeps coming up and you haven't been able to resolve it. So, yeah,
and then
that's
when
the main
you
thing.
say like people with PTSD would have recurring like trauma dreams,
Yeah,
that
those
would
are
be more
different.
serious. Yeah,
Yeah, because usually those dreams are talking about the
past.
event that caused the PTSD, and so
It's still saying you need to it's still the unconscious saying you haven't come to terms with this.
right, but it's pretty obvious what they need to come to
I
terms
know.
with. It's that event. Yeah.
What about big dreams?
Yeah, so this is a technical term, big dreams, right? But we all know what it means, that you wake up and you intuitively know and feel that this was important.
And you remember it for years without even writing it down. Most people will remember those big dreams. Those of you who remember your dreams, you could probably think of 3 or 4 dreams you've had in your life that were just so profound. They have a kind of a numinous quality, as Jung would say, this kind of like magical quality to them.
Yeah, they're important, and you know it, and often they're disguised in symbolic form, of course, because the unconscious speaks a symbolic language. It's not going to spell it out to you, or sometimes it does, but obviously if you know what it means, or if it's obvious what it means, you wouldn't have necessarily need the dream, right? You would figure it out consciously. But because it's something that you need to pay attention to, that you haven't paid attention to, or it's something significant that's about to happen, it just, the dream just blows you away with the imagery, the intensity, the color. It feels more intense than the waking life often. It's
A lot of strong feelings.
Yeah.
So can I share my big dream? I had a dream before I met you, probably maybe a year or two before I met you. And I had a dream. I was, my friends were flight attendants, so I had buddy passes and I could fly for free. I just had to go standby. And there's a little thing on the website that you can look up and see how many seats were available. And the dream was me going to the airport, and I was late for the airport, that anxiety. I hope I get there. And then I was checking to see if the flight was available on my phone, but it couldn't work. And I was panicking that I'm going to miss the flight and I don't know if I can get on it. And then all of a sudden I jumped out of my car because I was like, I'm not getting anywhere with this car. It's not taking me fast enough. So I just left the car, and the car went in like a circle. And then as it came in a circle, it came back toward me and it stopped. And out of the car in the middle of this, like on my way to DIA airport in Denver, this man comes out, but he's completely frozen. And he's standing in front of me, frozen, and I'm face to face with him. And then the frozen part melts and he comes to life. And he grabbed my hand, and it was the most incredible love I've ever felt. And so I called it my soulmate dream. It was like this feeling was so powerful. Like, wow, I can't believe I'm loved so much by this person. And this love is so out of this world that I've never felt before. And I look at it now. I didn't know Jungian dream interpretation then, but I mean, literally, I took it as you're just trying to get in control, like the car is the will. So jumping out and releasing and surrendering, basically, and it'll come to you. And that's sort of what happened in my life. But I was so like white knuckling it through my life, trying to get there on time, feeling impatient. And the dream was just like, it's all going to work out. And it did. Isn't that a cool dream?
Very cool. Yeah. So these big dreams, they often have a lasting impact on the dreamer, like just like your dream, right? It changes the way you understand yourself and your life. And they're also like milestones in your personal development.
Ooh, I
that
like
you're
that.
saying, the unconscious saying you're reaching or about to reach or have reached an important milestone in your development. And now you're ready to go to the next level, to become someone else in essence.
And this, just another thing about the dream, you always say the sky or the airplane is about spiritual life, you know, kind of going to a higher level. And I was like needing to get there faster. But I found the man on the ground. So anyway.
Yeah. And we'll talk about a little bit of
more symbolism.
About the symbols and the common symbols that appear throughout the lifespan.
So the last one.
Yeah, see, the archetypal dreams. So these dreams tap into the collective unconscious, which means you're going to go beyond your personal experiences. In other words,
beyond the shadow.
You're no longer in Kansas anymore, right? You've gone to a deeper stage of your personal development, and the unconscious is saying you're ready to experience something deeper. And so archetypal symbols. Now, the archetype is not the same as the symbol. An archetype can have many symbols associated with it.
Just like a tree is an archetype, but there's many different types of trees, and they all, even in the tree is a symbol of that archetype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But archetypal dreams often have a very significant theme that is archetypal, meaning that it's a larger pattern, a larger vision of who you are becoming, what your life work is about.
Deeper than just your personal life, is satisfying your ego needs. It's more about why you're here.
Yes, it might be associated with the great mother archetype, the wise old man, the God archetype, et cetera, et cetera. And these, again, these are even beyond big dreams. I mean, you know when you've had one of these archetypal dreams.
They don't feel like everyday dreams. You know, they don't have the typical. Sometimes they do incorporate people, you know, like when you're your mother, but it's archetypal that you're experiencing.
Yes.
But it feels like, I think archetypal dreams feel like you're in another world, like almost like a fantasy world with all these different, like the world is different. It's not structured the same way. Those type of dreams.
Yeah, so I'll give you a dream one of our students reported that is archetypal. So she finds herself walking in front of her great-grandmother's house. So automatically, right, it's the great mother, meaning the archetypal mother. And she walks into the house and there's nobody there. It's been abandoned for years, meaning out of the realm of space and time. In other words, it's not the typical experience of the ordinary person. Yeah, she's in another dimension, right, in another time and space. And so she walks to the backyard to see if maybe there's somebody outside in the backyard. And there's a giant tree in the backyard that she says was never there, right, when she was a kid and visiting. It was never there. So this is something new. So she goes to look at this giant tree that has grown in the backyard all of a sudden. And she says she looks up and she could see these birds flying up, way up above her head, like circling. And then that, as she's seeing them, one of them swoops down, like, you know, like those hawks that just fly down straight at you. She says it swoops down, and as it comes closer, she realizes it has the face of a human being. So this bird with a human head, right? This is mythological, right? It's the out of some Greek myth or something like that. And it starts to give her the message, like it's speaking to her. And I'll keep it private because it's her personal dream that, you know, is meaningful to her. But she wakes up after this and realizes, you know, what she's meant to do. In other words, it's like a revelation of her true purpose in life. These kinds of dreams, then she'll never forget it, right?
Yeah.
This will be with her for the rest of her life because it's given her a vision of what her higher purpose is.
And that turning point in her life as well. And it's like this wisdom within us is always trying to intervene into our ordinary life and make us be better, make us be greater, push us toward becoming. And that's what I love about dreams, is that you understand them in their context and the different layers to them. And then you really get this like inside scoop of what's really happening underneath the surface of your life that you're not conscious of every day, that's actually assisting you on your journey in life. You're not here alone. You don't need to just cognitively figure this out and think positive and feel positive. You want to access all this wisdom that's within you. And it's ready for you every night. 4 or 5 times a night we dream. And so increasing dream recall is a really good step. We talked about that last episode. So the next episode, we're talking about symbols.
We're going to move into symbols. Yeah, I think this piece is useful, again, to begin to categorize your dreams instead of thinking of them as just another dream. Ask yourself, what type of dream is this? Is this a prospective dream, a compensation dream, an integrative dream, or a dream of integration? Do I have recurring dreams that I need to pay attention to? Have I ever had big dreams? Most of us have. But the question might be, what do they mean? How well am I able to interpret these big dreams and what they mean for my life? And then the archetypal dreams. Have you ever had those archetypal dreams as a child or as an adolescent or recently, right? Sometimes people just have these dreams spontaneously. Yeah. They appear to come from nowhere, but they're important, right? They're signaling something important. And then, like I say, this is not comprehensive. There are other types of dreams that we'll talk about.
And it takes a while to master. I mean, I would start with just like the personal unconscious is usually the easiest to start with. Of course, work with a coach that understands Jungian psychology, and they can help you. Jungian analysts can help you with that. Yeah, it's really fascinating when it's like once you open that door to understanding, you never look at dreams the same way again. And then you're thirsty for those interpretations because you know there's something wise in here that I need to hear. And the dreams speak in metaphors and symbols. It doesn't speak directly unless you're really off track. And it's like, she's not listening. I'm going to tell her directly. And I have some of those dreams, right? When I wake up and I'm like, oh, I had this dream. And you're like, oh, that is so obvious of what this message is. Sometimes it becomes very clear, but for the most part, it's very cryptic. And it takes a while for us to get used to the language. And we all have our unique language. So using a dream dictionary isn't always the best case. Sometimes you can look at universal symbols, but the symbols in your dreams are very, very personal and to you and intimate to you based on your life experience, what your unconscious holds personally. Symbolically, it'll use a lot of those symbols and people you know as those symbols in order for you to kind of meet halfway and get the information. So we'll see you next week. I love this topic, Rob. This is great. I love talking about the different types of dreams. It's really fascinating. And I hope you find it fascinating too. Before we go, I do want to remind you, if you're watching us on YouTube, click the button here in the corner and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to us and you're hearing us on podcast services such as iTunes, Spotify, don't forget to subscribe. We want to see you on every episode of Soul Sessions with Creative Mind.